Welcome to the Benefits of Knowledge podcast with Lorne Curry of Curry Financial Group Limited. In this podcast, we are focused on helping businesses set up and manage their group benefit plan to protect and assist their most valuable assets. Join us on this journey where Lorne explores ways to help you develop effective and cost-efficient strategies for your business. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Benefits of Knowledge with Lorne Curry. Lorne, happy birthday again. Well, it's a little bit late this time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a good celebration?
Absolutely fantastic. Lots of family around.
That's
like I
awesome.
said, even some of my family members think I'm getting old. I didn't believe them, but no, it was a great time.
That is fantastic. I'm excited about today's podcast. We're talking about something a little bit different. We're talking about travel today.
Yeah, this is near and dear to my heart because I may have told you I don't plan on ever retiring because I got to keep working so I can just pay to travel, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's some people may be thinking, well, that's kind of funny. We're going to talk about travel insurance since with COVID, we haven't been able to travel. But now, as you know, we're recording this the end of July. Things are looking up at this time. So hopefully next month when you're actually listening to this, we're getting closer to really having the opportunity to start traveling again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's different rules. And for those listeners that are just joining us, I'm not in Canada. So I'll tell you this. I am learning so much from Lorne, and you will too, because the information is a lot of it's brand new to me. You're going to learn things about the system that you live in, and I think it's fantastic. We're a little bit looser here with travel. I know that. I know that Canada has been a little bit more locked up tight, which is probably a smarter way to do it. But you know, what are you going to do? I live here, so I'm going to be traveling at the end of September, going down to Mexico, and that's the plan so far. So this is really, really interesting to me. I've heard of travel insurance. Obviously, you're always offered it when you're purchasing something on the internet. You know, when you're going to plan a trip. I don't understand exactly what it covers. So, how much does it cover, Lorne? Does it cover everything that I would need if I'm going to travel someplace?
Well, there are limitations, Eric. Okay. And again, so the travel insurance we're talking about here, this is part of our employee group benefit programs, right? So
Okay.
It would be highly unusual to have a group benefit plan that did not include travel insurance.
Really?
I think I have one. Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. No, it's one of the core pieces that we always include. And the nice thing by including this, you don't have to go, here, whether it's going to, a bank, you can get coverage, or you go to a CAA, the automobile place. That quite often that's where people go. You don't need to do that if you have travel insurance, or better, also known as out of country coverage through your group benefit program. But we do need to make sure that people are aware that there are, limitations to what this is going to cover. Okay, so many of the insurers define this as an accident or injury or an unforeseen, keyword here, unforeseen illness that begins while the insured is traveling. Okay, so this means you cannot plan to go out to another country with the intention of having a medical procedure or dental work done and think your group plan is going to cover the cost. Unexpected, unforeseen, that's the key stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, so you want to hear something insane, Lorne? You ready?
Sure.
My parents went down to Costa Rica to get some dental work done. And it wasn't covered by any insurance plan because they didn't have insurance. They didn't have dental insurance, right? But they traveled down there, paid for the entire trip, stayed for 2.5 weeks. And it was cheaper for them to spend 2.5 weeks in Costa Rica and get the dental work done than it would have been just to get the dental work done here. So go Canada, because I know it's a whole lot better up there.
Yeah, but you know what? I've heard the same thing here.
Really?
I've heard of people going to other countries because remember, if you don't have a dental plan, or the dental plans, most of our plans cover basic procedures.
Yes.
Okay. So if you've got some major stuff happening, it's not going to be covered by the dental plan unless you have a really high end plan. That's going to be really expensive, right? So most of the companies we deal with, it's they cover the basic, your cleaning, your checkups, a filling, up to basically a root canal. But when you start getting into crowns and they have this peg teeth or whatever now they call them. I can't remember the proper word, but that stuff is extremely expensive. So yeah, I hear of people doing that.
Interesting.
And that's not covered.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's not covered. So what if I do have a health problem while I'm traveling, and I didn't plan on seeing a doctor, but I have to? So I'm thinking of food poisoning as one thought, or maybe I have something that. Well, I guess that brings up another question. If I have something that's kind of chronic that I've had, and I have a flare up of some kind while I'm traveling, what about those two incidences?
Okay, so. If you're out of the country and you get food poisoning, then that's an unexpected illness.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be covered. The insurance your chronic things. So your insurance company is going to have what we call pre-existing clauses that you need to pay close attention to. They're going to state any illness previously diagnosed or treated in Canada may not be covered. So example, I go in and say I need a pacemaker. Okay. And that's not a real big deal, right? I mean, that's a common thing. But a month later, I decide that, okay, I've got my pacemaker. Now I'm going to head south for the winter or whatever the case is. And a month later, I have a heart attack. Well, that's not going to be covered because obviously there was an issue with my heart, or else they wouldn't have put a pacemaker into me. And only a month later, it's not unreasonable that in that short period of time that I would have an issue with my heart. So I wouldn't go taking off on a vacation shortly after I have a medical procedure. Okay. Now, if I'm out of the country though, I've had my pacemaker, but I'm in a car accident. Okay. That's still going to be covered.
Yeah. That's different.
It's just specifically that pre-existing condition, we'll call it, for my heart would not be covered.
Okay, so I've got a question for you, and it's personal. It's to my own personal situation, so I'm going to share a little bit with the audience here. So in my right shoulder, Lorne, I have a double torn rotator cuff, and I know that I'm going to need some surgery on it at some point, but I'm actually planning on not having surgery until after I get back from vacation because the recovery and so on and so forth. I wouldn't be able to enjoy vacation if I did it beforehand. So right now it feels okay, right? It's sore, so on and so forth, but I plan on doing some snorkeling and some windsurfing and things while I'm down in Mexico. What happens if I don't want to say tear something else, but let's just say it flares up and it hurts real bad and it gets swollen. If I were to try to go see a doctor in the situation that you're talking about, would they consider that a pre-existing condition, even though I could have injured it while I was, sailing?
Okay, Eric, you're really testing me here. This is a tough one. My answer is it depends.
Okay.
I really think you're taking a risk because you have seen a doctor about this condition, so it is pre-existing. Now, I've gone through the same thing. I've had shoulder surgery and, I golfed and everything else until I had surgery because it couldn't hurt it anymore, to be honest. But if it had a flare up, you're in gray area whether that would be covered or not. I would suggest you're taking a risk and it may not be covered, but I can't give you a 100% answer because I'm not the insurance company. Yeah. Right. It really probably depends on what happens. And I guess the biggest thing in that scenario, you're not going to die of a bad shoulder. So you could probably get some pain pills or whatever and get back to Canada to have it. You're not going to have the surgery down there.
True.
Which is that's the biggest issue, right? Yeah. If it's a trip to the doctor and then getting a prescription, you know what? It's probably not a big cost, but I would say, that you're probably at risk if you had that shoulder issue.
And Lorne, I'll be honest, since I'm going to an all-inclusive resort, I'm pretty sure I can find some painkillers.
Probably.
Painkillers down in Mexico shouldn't be a problem.
The closest bar.
Exactly. There's some that I can swim up to with my good shoulder. I'll just swim over there and talk to the gentleman behind the pharmacy, quote unquote, counter. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Just put a different sign up on the bar.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So this leads me to my next question. Then is okay. What about other illnesses? I mean, so if I've had if I've had other illnesses in my lifetime or even in this last year, if I had that illness again, would that be covered? I mean, that kind of makes me wonder.
Yeah. So this doesn't exclude everything, in our history. So most travel coverage, they include what we call a stability clause.
Okay.
And that's going to exclude coverage for any medical issues that have changed or been treated in the last usually 30 to 90 days.
Right? Oh, okay.
So every company is a little bit different, but that's a pretty good guideline. I would say, if you've had something in the last 90 days before your date of travel, then I would be questioning it. So here's a good example: change of blood pressure medication. Okay, not real unusual for people. Maybe they changed the dosage or something like that. Okay, but that is a change. You've been to the doctor. There is a change. I would be hesitant to travel until I was stable on the new blood pressure medication for 90 days. Right? Yeah. So it's tough. And again, a lot of the questions. Some of the other things we get questions about more often are pregnancy. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one. So my understanding, and I always tell people, call your insurance carrier. There's a number, there's an 800 number for your travel insurance right on your card. Call them with this stuff. But generally, they say you're high risk for in pregnancy if you're beyond your 32nd week of pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Okay. There gives you a general rule of thumb. The other big one, I'm scheduled for a test or I'm waiting for test results. Well, in my opinion, I would be waiting for the results.
Got it.
Because you can always, what if it's a bad result?
Yeah.
Okay. You can't just say, oh, sorry, I didn't know. Well, no, you went for the test. So we know there could be an issue. Yeah. So again, my opinion, I would wait. Again, call the travel insurance carrier, tell them the situation, and see if they will give you a recommendation. Mm-hmm. But always ensure you're in stable health and do not travel against the doctor's orders. Right? Yeah. If the doctor says don't go, absolutely do not go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know it's so funny you bring up the pregnancy thing. I never would have thought of that because I've never been pregnant. Just between you and I.
True. Okay.
But somebody who's beyond their 32nd week, I don't think anybody's going to be able to deny that was a pre-existing condition, the previous 32 weeks.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And it's, up until that point, I don't think there's generally issues.
Yeah.
As long as everybody's healthy and everything's going well. But the closer you get, to your due date, then yeah, you really want to probably reconsider going too far.
Yeah. I think that's it goes back to the old saying, better safe than sorry, right? I mean, that's what you really want to be sure about. I know that before this podcast started, you and I kind of spoke a little bit, and you said you have kind of like 4 tips for people while they travel.
Yeah, these are number one. I always tell people this: make sure both you and your traveling companion have the phone number and information for your travel insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the reason for that is it's imperative that the insurance company is notified as soon as possible if medical attention is required. So, you're in a car accident and I'm not able, to make that call, but my wife has my information. She's going to phone that travel insurance company immediately, or as soon as possible, obviously. In many cases, it's a key requirement of the insurance company that they are notified first. Again, different circumstances is how fast can I contact them, but as soon as possible. And then the insurance companies, they're going to provide assistance beyond paying for care. Example being, they're going to help you find maybe an English-speaking hospital if you're in a country where English is not the first language.
Okay.
Right? Pretty hard to talk to the doctors and understand what's going on if nobody there speaks English and you don't speak their language.
Yeah.
So when you provide the healthcare facility, whether it's a hospital or whatever, with your insurance information, they may also be telling you, we're going to take care of everything for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, this does not mean that they're going to contact your insurance company on your behalf.
Got it.
In fact, they may intentionally not contact the insurer in an effort to run additional tests. They like to make money. The more they do, the more they're going to charge, right?
Yep.
So some insurers specifically state they will not pay for things like, a PET or a CAT scan, MRIs, unless they have pre-authorized those procedures or tests, for the very reason that they don't want them just running things that are not necessary. Okay. And again, we always have to take into consideration what are the circumstances, how bad is the situation, like a car accident or something like that. You're probably not going to get a hold of the insurance company maybe as quickly, but as soon as possible, you have to. Okay. Yeah. So the other thing, some medical facilities or hospitals will demand substantial cash deposits before they'll even provide you any emergency medical care. So another one is we actually had this situation with one of our clients. The person was in the hospital, and they would not release the patient until the bill was paid in full. They were asking our clients or our client's employee, which actually happened to be the client. But anyway, they were asking for their visa. They wanted them to pay with their visa before they were going to let them out of the hospital.
I said, wow, that's, you don't want to be in that situation.
No, that's kind of scary, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were on the phone here, I don't know how many times back and forth with the client trying to assist them. Anyway, so it can be a scary situation. But anyway, the medical assistance that's provided with your travel insurance, it can really minimize these hassles. They're going to verify the coverage with the hospital or whatever so that they understand, yes, you do have the coverage, and then they're going to arrange those payments wherever it's possible. Okay, so that's a big number one. We covered a lot there, right?
Yeah.
The second thing, make sure you check for any travel advisories for your destination. Okay, insurance companies will not provide coverage in any country or region for which the Canadian government has issued either an avoid non-essential travel or avoid all travel warnings.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. A lot of people don't realize that that's out there. You can go to the government website and you can look. And again, don't hesitate to phone the insurance carrier and say, hey, I'm going to Mexico. Are there any issues? Or I'm going to this part of Mexico, or maybe it's the Mayan Riviera specifically, because it could be just an area in a country. It doesn't have to be the whole country, right?
Oh, okay.
So, so you can check the government website, or to be 100% sure, phone the insurance carrier. Again, there's the 800 number, toll free on the card. Call them when you have these questions. That's what they're there for. Right? Number 3, make sure you have your provincial. So here we have OHIP cards, right? Make sure you have that and your benefit card with you when you travel.
Yep.
Right? Information. And then number 4, make sure you review the travel emergency and assistance coverage in your benefit booklet so you actually understand all the eligibility requirements. Okay. Educate yourself before you go so that you're not in a situation and you don't know who to call, what's covered, what should I do? You know what I mean? You're under stress. Just read the thing over before you go. And if something happens, hopefully it doesn't, but at least you'll be a little more prepared and know what to do.
Yeah. Well, I was actually very surprised at the beginning of this podcast when you said that travel insurance is part of a group benefits plan, which, I mean, it makes sense because this is what your podcast is about, Lorne, group benefits. Yeah. But I just hadn't heard of that before. So does travel insurance offer any other benefits besides, the medical stuff?
Yes. Actually, they offer many other things that we didn't think of. They'll help maybe arrange for transportation to either the nearest appropriate facility or to return you back to Canada. Right? So I had a situation, a client, actually this was the business owner in this situation. He was in Florida, got really sick. He was in intensive care for, I think it was 21 days.
Oh my goodness.
Which is very, very expensive, all right? So as soon as a person is stable enough, it's cheaper actually for the insurance company to fly you back home or back to Canada, right, than it is to be paying the hospital bills in the States. I understand the US is the most expensive place in the world to get sick, is what I'm told. Okay, but anyway, so what happened in this case, after 21 days, they felt he was stable enough, and they put him, I think it was actually on a helicopter, and they flew him from Florida to the Kingston Hospital. Now, he wasn't from Kingston, but that was the closest major hospital. And so anyway, yeah. And I think the bill on all that was $386,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So pretty expensive. That was the 21 days plus the flight back. But again, that's a big cost. So that's a big benefit that they would actually fly you home.
Yeah, I actually had a friend of mine that had that same scenario. They were in Russia, and she had purchased travel insurance. I know that obviously it wasn't part of a group benefits plan, but she had purchased travel insurance. And when her husband, it was a heart attack, when he was stabilized in the hospital, the hospital was trying to keep him, kind of like what you were talking about before, because it was quite expensive every day, and she was racking up her credit cards until the travel insurance would kick in and pay it off or whatever they do. But they sent a life flight group to pick him up, and they went into the hospital. They actually took charge of him and said, "This is now my patient. You have no rights to touch him." They were very, they defended him and got him out of that hospital when the hospital was actually trying just to continue to keep him, and they flew him all the way home. But that was part of exactly what you were talking about. Once you know that they're stable and they can receive better care or cheaper care, depending on the situation, they got him out of there. And so I can imagine that was a big relief to your client and his family.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. So then, okay, now we've just flown them home. What about their car?
Oh,
right. So again, a part of the assistance is we can get your vehicle home if you need to be flown home in that situation, or even if you just had a rental car somewhere, somebody's got to get that car returned back to the rental company.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah, absolutely.
So little thing you wouldn't think of. In the unfortunate situation where someone passes away, there's the repatriation of the remains. Again, the person's body has to be returned home. So somebody's got to get it there. We're going to assist with that. Things like returning dependent children to Canada. They'll actually provide a qualified escort if necessary.
Yeah.
Or they'll provide a round-trip ticket for an immediate family member to visit you if you're in the hospital for over 7 days. If you're traveling by yourself, they'll actually bring somebody down if you're in there for over 7 days.
That is cool.
What about, you're in the hospital and your plane has now left for home. You missed it.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to pay for a one-way ticket to get you to fly you back home because you were in the hospital. All right? And here's one. What about helping arrange cash advances, whether from credit cards or from family or friends, if money is needed to post bail, pay legal fees, or even, just refer you to a local legal advisor?
I hadn't thought about that.
No. Well, I certainly try not to get in any trouble when I'm anywhere, but
that's right.
It does happen, right?
Yeah, it does.
You hear of people, maybe they were down at that pharmacy you were talking about, the swim up one.
That's right.
And got a little carried away or whatever and ended up in trouble.
Yep.
So anyway, all kinds of stuff that is covered.
Okay.
And they're there to help.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, that sounds fantastic. One thing that's kind of been nagging at my back of my head here, Lorne, is COVID-19, right? The pandemic, all this stuff. Does COVID-19 affect the travel insurance? Are there new rules because of it?
Yeah, so we're recording as of July 29th, 2021. The rules are continually changing because of COVID. Right. We mentioned at the start of the podcast, we're hoping, things look like they're starting to open up for us to travel more. But, as we already mentioned, I would check for any of those travel advisories for the location you're traveling to. Okay. Call the insurance company. I'm going to Mexico, the Mayan Riviera, whatever. Is it safe? Am I going to be covered? I would also get advice from them based on the rules at the time. Because they're changing continuously. So don't call them, 3 months before you're leaving and think that's good. Call them like closer to your trip time. The other thing I'd be checking is, can you enter that country? Okay. All the countries right now have different rules. And the thing we're running into in Canada is we have mixed vaccines. So I have the AstraZeneca was my first shot. I was one of the early ones that got that. And then my second shot was Pfizer. So some countries, actually I think the US at this point, are saying, oh, we're not accepting that because I had two different ones. So these are things, make sure you check this stuff out. And then will you have any issues returning to Canada?
Yeah.
Right? So are we going to get back in the country all right? So things, when I say there, is like quarantining. So you may have to quarantine for 14 days before you get in the country you're going to, and then you have to quarantine for 14 days maybe to get back into Canada, depending on your situation. So just check the details, make sure you know what the rules are, where you're going, and whether you're getting back home without any issues.
Got it.
My big worry is this the mixed vaccine. Yeah. That's the one that's kind of bothering me right now because my wife and I both have mixed vaccines here. So.
All right, Lorne, so let me ask you this. Again, being from the U.S., ours is different, but we have in-network and out-of-network, right? If you want to have all your medical things taken care of in-network, meaning the doctors and people that are around you, out-of-network can be more expensive unless you have coverage for out-of-network. So is there something similar in Canada? So in other words, does somebody need travel insurance if they're traveling inside Canada, or is it just all taken care of?
No, actually, most people are not aware that. So here in Ontario, we have what we call OHIP. So that's Ontario, right? Coverage. That OHIP does not cover all medical expenses if you're traveling into another province.
Oh,
so,
okay. Yep.
Again, it's important. Yeah, we have coverage. So the big expensive ones there are going to be if you need to incur transportation. So whether it's a ground ambulance or by air. Depending on the province, the cost for ground ambulance ranges in the hundreds of dollars, but if you're flying, that could cost you thousands of dollars. Yeah. So you still need to have coverage if you're inside Canada, because there are things that are not covered. Go back to those 4 recommendations we talked about earlier. Do them even if you're inside Canada or internationally.
Got it. All right. And then another thing that I was thinking about is you did a fantastic podcast a while back on telemedicine, right? Do you remember what episode that was?
Yeah. Episode 7.
Episode 7. Okay, so go back and listen to episode 7, audience, if you haven't heard it. It was fantastic. So telemedicine, so many things are being done remotely. Can people use telemedicine while they're traveling?
Yeah. So some of the insurance companies, again, check with your insurance company, but some are offering the telemedicine in their coverage. It's either through their extended health care benefit or it could be done inside the travel insurance. But just check. And now I think it only works, my understanding is if you're in Canada or the US. But it would be really convenient to use rather than looking for a clinic or going through the whole travel insurance process. If it's something, remember we talked that 50% of things could be done instead of going to the doctor, could be done virtually. I've got a rash or whatever the case, I need my prescription. It's much easier to go through the virtual or telemedicine, if possible, than it is, trying to go through anything else. So I just suggest our listeners contact their insurance company to find out if they're offering this service. Your plan administrator hopefully would know that as well.
Fantastic. Such great information today. Anything else you want to share before we close this out?
Just if people have questions about this, again, we're more than happy to answer anything. You can reach out to us by email. You go to our website, curryfinancialgroup.com. Our email addresses are on there. Mine's Lorne at curryfinancialgroup.com. Toll free, if you want to just give us a call anywhere in Ontario, the toll free number is good. It's 1-866-445-4424. And please make sure you have your documents, check to make sure what all the rules are, and get questions answered before you go on vacation. It could be a lifesaver.
Yeah, absolutely. Bottom line, it's our responsibility. If we want to travel, we need to be able to do a little bit of the legwork just to make sure that we're safe. And I think this was such a good reminder and so much good information. So, Lorne, thank you so much for presenting today again. And, of course, our last thank you goes to you, the listening audience. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Benefits of Knowledge podcast with Lorne Curry. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Lorne comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your colleagues. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at Curry Financial Group, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Benefits of Knowledge podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.